The Galactic Council chamber hung in silence for a moment, floating above a dying red dwarf star. The air shimmered with blue light from thousands of holograms. Rows of alien representatives sat in curved seats that wrapped around the center stage like a giant metal nest. Every species, from massive stone-bodied warriors to thin insect-like scholars, waited to hear the next report. At the center stood a silver podium, glowing with soft light. A senior relay officer cleared his throat and raised a small data crystal. "This next message," he announced, "comes from a newly discovered planet. Designation: Earth." A ripple of laughter moved through the chamber. A giant reptilian leader cracked a smile, showing sharp teeth. "Earth? The small blue rock? The one with no interstellar fleet?" Another alien, a floating jelly-like being, pulsed with bright amusement. "Oh yes, I remember them. Primitive mammals. Barely evolved." The relay officer continued without reacting. "They have sent a formal request to join the Galactic Council." The reaction was immediate and explosive. Dozens of voices shouted, hissed, and laughed. "Join us?" A tall, crimson-skinned ambassador barked. "They barely qualify as spacewalkers. They've been in space for what? A few hundred years?" Another scoffed. "Infants." A feathered delegate shook his head. "Humans are not ready. Their machines break. Their politics collapse every century." A deep rumble came from the back row as a huge beast-like representative laughed so hard the floor trembled. "Let them stay on their tiny planet. They probably think joining us is what did they call it? Honor." The room filled with mockery and smug chatter, but not everyone laughed. In the fourth row, a small group of quiet delegates exchanged uneasy looks. One of them, a thin, gray-skinned diplomat from the Viren species, tapped her claw nervously on her seat. "Do you feel it?" she whispered to her colleague. "There is something strange about this request." "What do you mean?" the colleague asked. The tone. "It is not desperate," she said. "It does not read like a plea. It reads like a statement." But her colleague only shrugged and returned to the noise of the chamber. At the main podium, the relay officer pressed a button and displayed the message. The hologram rose above the council, glowing with human letters translated into the galactic standard language. "We, the representatives of Earth, request entry into the Galactic Council. We believe cooperation will benefit both humanity and the greater galaxy. We await your response." The message was calm, focused, direct. Not a single line asked for protection. Not one sentence begged for support. Still, the council laughed. A sharp-voiced delegate screeched, "Oh, how polite." "Perhaps they want us to babysit them?" "Maybe they think we fear them," another joked. Humans always imagine they are important. The High Speaker, an ancient multi-eyed being with shimmering skin, raised one hand for quiet. "We will respond," he said. "But first, we should at least review their official profile." A wave of boredom rolled across the chamber. "Why waste time? They are harmless. Their file will be short." But protocol was protocol. The High Speaker turned to the records clerk, a young bird-like assistant with soft green feathers and trembling wings. "Retrieve the Earth file," the Speaker ordered. The clerk nodded and hurried to the large archive console. Hundreds of data crystals glowed around him like tiny suns. He typed quickly, expecting a brief report, maybe 10 or 20 pages, describing primitive machines and a noisy planet. "Retrieving Earth file. Level 7 clearance required," the console said. The clerk frowned. "Level 7? That can't be right." Around him, several delegates looked up in surprise. Level 7 is for hostile worlds, or worlds with dangerous anomalies. This must be an error. The clerk entered the override code. The console blinked again. "Confirm request. Full Earth file classified." The chamber grew colder. The clerk swallowed hard. Confirmed? A single crystal slid out from the machine. It pulsed with red light, an emergency color used only for high-risk species. The clerk picked it up, feeling the strange warmth in his hands. He walked toward the center podium, his wings shaking. Load the first page, the high speaker commanded. The clerk inserted the crystal. A hologram burst into the air, bright red, sharp, intense. The first line glowed across the chamber. Warning: Terran species, extreme risk potential. The laughter stopped. The clerk stared at the line. Frozen. He tried to read the next section, but when the words appeared, he stumbled backward. His wings flared in panic. His breath turned shallow. He dropped the tablet. The hologram flickered wildly, still showing the warning label. Delegates leaned in, confused. What is wrong with the boy? What did he see? Why does he look terrified? The high speaker narrowed his eyes. Clerk, speak. The young assistant opened his beak, but no sound came out. He was shaking so violently that his feathers fell to the floor. Finally, in a small broken whisper, he said, "This world, this species, they are not what we thought." Whispers filled the room. What did he say? Not what we thought? Impossible. The high speaker slowly rose from his seat, his many eyes glowing. Load the full file, he commanded. The room fell silent. No more jokes. No more laughter. Only tension. Only fear. And the silent realization that Earth, the tiny planet they mocked, might be far more dangerous than anyone expected. The council chamber felt heavier, now thicker, as if the air itself was warning them to leave. A low hum vibrated through the walls as the red hologram flared brighter. Every delegate, even the proud and arrogant ones, leaned forward in uneasy silence. The high speaker raised a hand. Display the first section. The hologram shifted, revealing a title in bold red. Section 1. Human Conflict History Classified. A nervous whisper ran across the chamber. Conflict history? For a young species, this section should have been short. Maybe a few border fights, local disputes, or minor rebellions. But the file expanded. And expanded. And kept expanding. Line after line. The list grew into hundreds of human wars, rebellions, uprisings, civil wars. Global wars, so many that even the machines struggled to load them quickly. A stone-skinned general from the Zaworth Empire frowned. This cannot be right. That list is longer than our entire empire's history. A small amphibian delegate blinked in confusion. Are humans always fighting? The hologram zoomed into the first major entry. The human world WR's. Dozens of images appeared at once. Explosions, burning cities, soldiers in trenches, massive machines tearing across battlefields, civilians fleeing destruction, a planet tearing itself apart. The youngest delegates gasped. A reptilian ambassador clicked his tongue. Why would one species do this to itself? The file answered automatically as the text scrolled. Humans fight for many reasons. Territory, resources, ideology, fear, revenge, survival. A metal-bodied diplomat whispered, "That is too many reasons." Another line appeared. Even when facing extinction, humans rarely surrender. The council chamber grew quieter. The hologram shifted again, showing human soldiers fighting in zero visibility, freezing temperatures, burning heat, chemical fields, deep jungles, open deserts, conditions that would kill most species instantly. A council member with age-shimmering eyes spoke softly. They fight in environments we consider death zones. More images appeared. A human dragging a wounded ally through a storm of fire. A small group holding a position against hundreds. A medic treating enemies and allies alike. Civilians forming resistance groups when armies fell. The file highlighted a line in glowing white. Humans endure extreme pain and continue fighting long after. Other species would collapse. A cold wave passed through the chamber. The council had seen violent species. The four raiders, predators, hive swarms. But those species were consistent. They fought for one instinct, and one instinct only. Humans were different. They fought for anything, for everything, and sometimes for nothing except the belief that they must. The next section appeared. Human extinction level conflicts. A hush fell. The hologram displayed maps of Earth breaking, burning, flooding. Entire civilizations disappearing. Empires rising and falling. A feathered diplomat leaned forward. Wait, they survived this? The file responded. Over 20 near-extinction events. Humans recovered from each. A deep voice rumbled from the back. No species survives more than 2. But humans had survived nearly 24. The high speaker's eyes narrowed. What kept them alive? The hologram answered. Human adaptability exceeds predicted biological limits. Several council members exchanged glances. Adaptability. That word was dangerous. The file continued automatically, projecting more scenes. Human tribes rebuilding after volcanic winters. Kingdoms rising after meteor strikes. Nations recovering from global plagues. Cities rebuilt from ash over and over. A stone general spoke again, but this time his voice lacked arrogance. So they never stay down. No, the high speaker said quietly. They do not. The file shifted once more, showing the development of human technology through conflict. Simple sticks turned to metal blades. Blades to guns. Guns to bombs. Bombs to global weapons. And then rapid jumps in science. A floating jelly being trembled. They improved themselves through destruction. That is unnatural. The hologram zoomed into a highlighted paragraph. Humans innovate fastest under pressure. When threatened, their scientific output increases exponentially. This time, even the arrogant ambassadors began to understand the danger. Humans evolved through pressure, through chaos, through war. The file displayed a final set of images. Human soldiers shaking hands after wars, helping rebuild, offering aid to former enemies, working together after catastrophic losses. An alien ambassador frowned. But why rebuild? Why help those who harmed them? The answer glowed on the hologram. Humans fight fiercely, but humans also forgive fiercely. That contradicted everything the council understood. Violent species stayed violent. Peaceful species stayed peaceful. Humans were both. The high speaker exhaled slowly. A dual-natured species. Unpredictable. A new line flashed across the top of the hologram. End of Section 1. Warning. Additional sections contain content of higher threat level. The clerk who had nearly fainted earlier stared at the floor. Unable to look at the hologram again, the high speaker leaned back in his seat. Deep in thought, humans are not as simple as we believed. Around him, the chamber remained silent, an unnatural silence from a council that once laughed at the idea of Earth joining them. Now, no one laughed. Now, the only question was, what else is hidden in the next sections of Earth's classified file? The council chamber felt different now. No one sat casually anymore. No one whispered jokes. Most delegates leaned forward as if pulled by gravity toward the glowing hologram. A few gripped their armrests tightly. The young clerk who had merely fainted stood far from the display, as if the file itself might bite. The high speaker raised a hand. Proceed. Load Section 2. The hologram dimmed for a moment, then exploded into a swirl of blues, reds, and harsh white light. Text scrolled across the air. Section 2. Human extinction events classified access. Several delegates murmured nervously. Any species with one extinction level event was considered danger tested. Any species with two was considered battle hardened. But the file did not list one, or two, or even five. It listed more than 20. The hologram zoomed in on the first catastrophe, a massive asteroid impact striking ancient Earth. Firestorms covered continents. The sky turned to ash. Oceans boiled and forests burned. A child-sized insectoid ambassador gasped. That impact would have wiped out our entire planet. The hologram displayed early humans, small, frightened, but alive. They huddled in caves, sharing fire, working together, scavenging, adapting. The file's summary glowed. Early humans survived through cooperation, creativity, and rapid adaptation. The virulent diplomat whispered, they should not have survived this. But they did. The hologram shifted to another event, a global volcanic eruption. The sky turned black for years. Temperatures fell. Animals died. Food vanished. Humans wrapped themselves in furs, crafted new tools, hunted differently, migrated thousands of miles through ice and darkness. Some groups vanished. Others grew stronger. The file added, human evolution accelerated. A metallic ambassador tilted his head. They evolved because of disaster? Not despite it? The high speaker didn't answer. He was too busy watching the images. Humans learning to fish in frozen rivers. Humans crossing mountains in blizzards. Humans forming tribes to share food and shelter. Another catastrophe flashed onto the hologram. Deadly plagues. Bodies piled in ancient streets. Whole civilizations collapsed. But again, scattered survivors rebuilt. New medicines, new customs, new knowledge emerged each time. The Zalrith general spoke with quiet disbelief. This species should have disappeared a dozen times over. Yet, they remain, the high speaker murmured. The next images showed ancient cities rising from ruins, then falling again. Floods swallowing entire empires. Earthquakes tearing continents apart. Hurricanes flattening thousands of homes. Humans wept, but always rebuilt. The amphibian delegate wiped a shaking hand over his skin. It is like watching a world restart again and again, with the same species refusing to die. The hologram presented more. Ice ages lasting thousands of years. Meteor showers destroying megafauna. Shifts in Earth's magnetic field. Cosmic radiation bursts global famine sea levels. Rising and drowning nations. Each event ended with the same summary. Human survival probability, low. Outcome, species survived. One ambassador whispered, they survived the impossible. Another voice cut in, trembling, and then grow stronger from it. The high speaker stared at the hologram with his many eyes, each reflecting chaos and rebirth. What drives them? He asked aloud. Logic alone cannot explain this. The file answered automatically. Human resilience is a combination of biology, psychology, and social behavior unmatched among known species. Biology? Psychology? Behavior? The delegates focused as the hologram shifted. Human biopsychological response to extinction. A diagram of a human appeared, muscles, bones, nerves, heart, brain. Text swirled around it. Under extreme stress, human adrenaline increases strength and speed. Humans form tight social bonds during crisis, increasing survival. Fear stimulates creativity and invention. Humans can keep moving even with injury, hunger, or emotional trauma. A quiet gasp echoed from one of the upper rows. The stone-bodied general asked, "So fear does not freeze them?" The file answered, "Fear activates humans." Another ambassador whispered, "They turn fear into progress." The hologram played footage from later eras, humans pushing through burning cities, rescuing strangers, rebuilding after disasters, inventing new tools, rediscovering lost knowledge. The chamber watched in uneasy silence. Finally, The hologram displayed a final summary for the section. Humanity's continued survival is statistically improbable. The species demonstrates an extreme resistance to extinction. Prediction: humans will survive scenarios fatal to most known civilizations. The chamber lights dimmed again as the hologram switched sections. Delegates shifted uneasily, their earlier confidence now replaced by a quiet, growing fear. No one mocked Earth anymore. No one even blinked. The high speaker motioned with one hand. Proceed. Load Section 3. The hologram pulsed red, then unfolded into a detailed display of the human body, muscles, bones, organs, nerves, all glowing with eerie white-blue light. Text scrolled across the top. Section 3. Human Biology Risk Review. A thin ambassador with crystal skin muttered, "Why would a Level 7 file include biology? Biology is harmless." But as soon as he finished speaking, the hologram expanded and revealed something none of them expected. The human skeletona, rotating human skeleton, appeared. The bones glowed softly, showing fractures healing in time-lapse. A Zaurath general leaned forward. "Wait, those fractures, they are repairing themselves?" The file responded automatically. Human bones heal quickly and grow stronger after repeated injury. A ripple of shock moved through the chamber again. The amphibian delegate blinked hard. "They get stronger after damage? Like adaptive armor?" Another line appeared. "Humans can continue moving with broken bones, torn muscles, and internal bleeding." This time, even the proudest members of the council reacted. "That is impossible." One protested. "No species can function like that," whispered another. The hologram zoomed in on human joints, showing shocking flexibility. Human joints allow high mobility to escape danger or fight unpredictably. The stone general frowned. "Unpredictable movement is the most dangerous kind in close combat." The human muscle SYSD, and the next image displayed human muscle fibers tearing, reforming, reinforcing. Human muscles rebuild after damage, becoming stronger at high speed. Again, a delegate hissed. "They grow stronger when hurt." The file continued. Muscles remain functional under extreme pain. A floating jelly being trembled. No. Pain is supposed to immobilize. But humans, the file showed, used pain differently. Pain did not stop them. Pain pushed them forward. The human HER Tehiva hologram zoomed into a beating human heart, glowing bright red. Human cardiovascular endurance is high. In emergencies, adrenaline can raise heart output dramatically. The Viren diplomat spoke softly. "So their bodies fight for them, even when their minds cannot." The file added, "Humans can sprint, climb, fight, and run long distances under stress." The Zaurath general growled. "In war, that would make them persistent." The human immune SYSTEM'd. Of alien delegates gasped as a swarm of visuals showed humans fighting off an enormous variety of diseases. Humans survive thousands of pathogens deadly to other species. The amphibian delegate whispered, "They survive diseases that would wipe out half our council." The hologram displayed humans living in deserts, jungles, tundras, mountains, every biome imaginable. Humans adapt to extreme environments quickly. "Impossible," muttered a crystal ambassador. "No single species should exist in so many climates." But humans not only existed, they thrived everywhere. The human BR, and suddenly the hologram zoomed straight into the human brain. Neurons fired like tiny stars. A hush fell deeper than any before. Human neurochemistry is highly reactive. Stress increases focus, creativity, and problem-solving speed. The high speaker leaned back, stunned. "So they think faster when in danger." Another line appeared. "Humans enter a state known as fight or flight under extreme fear. Both responses make them more dangerous." For a moment, no one spoke. Then the insectoid ambassador whispered, "In fear, other species freeze. Humans become predators." The hologram went further. Humans can override instinct using reason, empathy, or anger. That line disturbed the entire room. Reason, empathy, anger. 3 completely different forces could guide the same species. Unpredictable, uncontrollable. A feathered diplomat swallowed hard. They can choose when to be logical, or emotional, or violent. The file highlighted one last chilling line. Humans make decisions other species consider irrational. But these decisions often lead to survival or victory. The high speaker slowly lowered his many eyes. A species that grows stronger after injury, that adapts under fear, that keeps fighting even when wounded. He paused, letting the silence stretch. Is a species the galaxy should never underestimate. The predator cues the ion. The hologram suddenly flashed yellow, signaling a deeper warning. Behavioral analysis, human classification, potential category, social predator. That caused a shockwave across the entire chamber. Predators? But they have no claws. They have no fangs. They are herbivore-shaped. They are omnivores. Why classify them as predators? The answer glowed in red. Humans show predator-level persistence, strategy, tool use, and behavioral aggression when provoked. A silent dread filled the room. The crystal ambassador croaked. So they are predators. Without looking like predators? The file concluded the section with a final warning. Biology indicates humans are capable of extreme survival and extreme combat potential. Risk level, high. The hologram dimmed. No one breathed. The high speaker's voice cut through the silence like a blade. Now we understand why the clerk reacted as he did. The clerk nodded weakly, feathers trembling. This species is built for survival, he whispered. Built for conflict. Built for endurance. He hesitated before adding, and they have not even reached the most dangerous parts of their file yet. The chamber froze. There were more sections? More warnings? The high speaker raised his hand once more. Load section 4. The glowing red hologram flared to life, and the council braced for what humanity had yet to reveal. The hologram brightened again, glowing a dangerous, blood-red tone that reflected off every metal surface in the chamber. The delegates stared at it as if it might leap out and attack them. The high speaker's voice was quiet, now too quiet. Load the next section. The hologram shifted, but instead of showing images or diagrams, a single title appeared. Section 4. Human behavioral notes restrict. A wave of discomfort rippled across the rows. Biology was frightening enough. But behavior? Behavior was what made species predictable. Or terrifying. A nervous ambassador whispered, "Biology tells us what they are. Behavior tells us what they might do." The hologram flickered and opened the first file. The first page, the unsettling TRU only. One sentence appeared. Just one. But it felt like a weapon dropped into the room. Humans run toward danger. There was a long, unnatural silence. Finally, an insectoid ambassador chittered. That cannot be correct. That is a translation error." The file zoomed in and repeated. In emergencies, humans rush toward threats to protect others. The Zalrith general clenched his jaw. Why? Why would any being do that? Self-preservation is universal. The file gave its explanation. Humans value the lives of others, even strangers, over their own safety. This time, the silence was even heavier. No species does that, a feathered diplomat whispered. Not naturally, not instinctively, but humans did. The hologram displayed scenes pulled from human records. Firefighters running into burning buildings. Soldiers shielding civilians. Rescue workers digging through rubble with bleeding hands. Teachers shielding children from danger. Strangers pulling people out of wreckage without hesitation. One ambassador covered his eyes. The file continued. Humans possess an extreme protective impulse. A crystal-skinned delegate muttered. This makes them dangerous in a different way. Not just physically dangerous. Morally dangerous. A species that would die for another was a species impossible to predict. The second page. Human loyalty. The hologram flipped to the next page. Human loyalty is deep and enduring. Betrayal is rare but catastrophic. The Zalrith general's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? The hologram showed groups of humans standing together even in hopeless battles. Survivors refusing to abandon teammates. Families defending each other with incredible courage. The file added, humans form intense social bonds. These bonds increase resilience but also increase retaliatory behavior when threatened. Retaliatory behavior? The amphibian delegate echoed. You mean revenge? The file pulsed red. Correct. A sudden image appeared. Humans preparing after an attack, not to flee, but to strike back harder. A cold chill washed over the council. The third page. Human emotional RNG. The hologram opened to the next section. Humans experience a wide range of strong emotions. These emotions can override physical limits. The delegates leaned in. The file elaborated. Fear may cause retreat, or it may cause aggression. Sadness may lead to withdrawal, or fierce protectiveness. Anger may lead to destruction, or courage. The high speaker's voice lowered, meaning, we cannot predict their actions. The hologram flashed. Correct. Human behavior is variable and context-dependent. A jelly-like ambassador trembled so violently it shook the liquid inside its body. A species that can't be predicted is the most dangerous type of species. The fourth page. Their most feared ally indeed. A hologram turned to the next page, and the lighting in the chamber dimmed. Every delegate felt something inside them tighten fear, curiosity, dread. The page contained only one line. Humans do not fear death. They fear failing the ones they protect. It struck the room like a physical blow. Delegates whispered among themselves. That is unnatural. That is terrifying. How do we fight a species that does not fear dying? What kind of world creates such beings? The high speaker spoke with quiet disbelief. Even our elite soldiers value their own lives above all else. But humans value something else more. The hologram expanded, showing human parents shielding children, soldiers shielding allies, strangers forming human chains to rescue one person trapped. It was inspiring. It was horrifying, because to the council, nothing was more terrifying than an enemy who did not fear death. The fifth page, the WR9. Hologram went dark for a moment before glowing again with an ominous yellow warning symbol. Human behavior under stress may escalate unpredictably. Humans can shift from peaceful to violent rapidly if threatened or cornered. The Zalrith general growled. That makes them unstable. The file disagreed. Not unstable. Adaptive. That one word froze the entire chamber. Adaptive behavior meant survival. Adaptive aggression meant victory. Adaptive unpredictability meant danger. The final page. The Terran threat POSSIB highlight why the hologram displayed one final note. Overall behavioral risk level. Extreme. Recommendation. Approach Terran species with caution. Potential ally value. Very high. Potential enemy threat. Catastrophic. The high speaker leaned slowly back into his seat. The council chamber remained silent, heavy and pale. Earth was no longer a joke. Humans were no longer primitive apes. They were now something else. Entirely, something the galaxy had never seen before, and something the galaxy was not prepared for. The high speaker spoke in a hushed voice. If this is only the fourth section, Then what horrors or strengths wait in the next? He lifted his hand. Load Section 5. The hologram flickered violently, and the room braced for the next revelation about humanity. The chamber lights dimmed the moment Section 5 loaded, as if the room itself sensed something dangerous inside the data. The hologram brightened, then flickered with an unusual static the council had not seen before. A technician whispered, "High speaker? This section has a volatility flag." "Proceed," the high speaker ordered. Though his throat tightened as he spoke, the hologram stabilized, revealing the title, Section 5. Human capacities, RST Desireth General leaned forward, slowly, fist tight. Capacities meaning? What humans can do? No, the high speaker murmured. Meaning what they become. A chill passed through the delegate's thought the first page. Limits that aren't alignments the hologram. Displayed as simple line. Human physical limits are soft boundaries. A reptilian ambassador frowned. What does that mean? The hologram answered. Humans exceed their own limits under stress, survival need, or emotional drive. Images appeared. A mother lifting part of a collapsed vehicle off her trapped child. A soldier running several kilometers while injured and carrying a wounded comrade. A teenage girl breaking down a locked door to escape a fire and pull 3 others out. A crystalline delegate's voice quivered. This is not biology. This is madness. The high speaker shook his head slowly. No, this is something else. The file added, humans can temporarily increase strength, speed, and pain tolerance when needed. Delegates shifted uncomfortably. Unpredictable behavior was one thing. Unpredictable limits was another. The second page. Their strangest WAP on the hologram turned to the next page, showing the words, "Human imagination is a strategic threat." A wave of disbelief spread through the chamber. Imagination? The feathered delegate scoffed. They draw pictures and tell stories. Why is that dangerous? The file responded instantly. Human imagination produces innovation. Warfare strategies, problem solving, deception, and rapid adaptation. Images appeared. A human soldier creating a decoy using only clothing and rocks. A group of trapped miners designing oxygen-saving tools from scraps. Children inventing games with complex rules in minutes. Scientists building entire technologies based on ideas from fictional stories. One ambassador whispered, "They invent things." Out of nothing. The file continued. Imagination allows humans to create what does not yet exist. That line struck the council like a blow. Most species progress slowly century by century. But humans? They leapt up the third page, the terrifying form of sci-fi. Next page opened. Humans cooperate on levels rarely observed in the galaxy. The hologram expanded to show humans forming massive groups. Emergency coordinators, volunteers, community workers, soldiers, medics. Scientists dot the file elaborated. Humans cooperate with strangers. They cooperate across races, cultures, and beliefs. They cooperate without genetic relation. They cooperate even at personal cost. The amphibian delegate muttered, "That is unnatural." The file responded, "It is effective." Scenes appeared of humans assembling relief networks after disasters, millions moving in sync without any central command. They act like a single organism, one delegate whispered. The Zaureth general exhaled slowly. No wonder their wars are so devastating, and their rebuilds so fast. The fourth page, the most feared CAPA site, why the hologram transitioned again, but the room seemed to grow colder. The page was marked with a black warning bar. Humans recover. The high speaker leaned forward. Explain. The file expanded. Human recovery capacity is extreme. They heal from physical trauma quickly. They recover from psychological damage unpredictably. They rebuild after catastrophic events. They rise after collapse. Images fill the air. Burned landscapes turning into rebuilt cities. Survivors of disasters laughing again months later. An injured athlete learning to walk again, then run again. A defeated nation rising with stronger resolve. A trembling diplomat whispered, "Resilience like this. We've never seen it." The file added one more line. Human hope is not easily destroyed. Delegates lowered their eyes. Hope, the most unpredictable force in the universe. The fifth page. What should be impossible? Hologram hesitated before opening the next page, as if struggling with the data. When it loaded, every delegate leaned forward. Humans can change. A ripple of confusion moved through the room. The hologram elaborated. Most species are fixed in their social behavior, aggression levels, or instinct patterns. Humans can alter these through choice, environment, and belief. Millions of years of instincts could be overridden by decisions. The Zalrath general whispered, "That is impossible." But the file disagreed. Humans change their minds. Humans change their customs. Humans change their nature. One ambassador murmured, "You mean they can evolve themselves without evolving biologically?" The file confirmed, "Correct. Evolution through will, through culture, through choice." The galaxy had never seen anything like it. The final page. A warning the Council did not exp yet. The hologram snapped into its final yellow. Warning. Capacity risk level, catastrophic. Potential for uncontrolled growth or advancement, extremely high. Delegates swallowed hard. The high speaker whispered, "So they can become more than they are now." He wasn't sure he wanted the answer, but the file gave it anyway. Humans are not at their peak. The greatest threat is not what they are, but what they can become. The chamber fell silent, not afraid of humanity's strength, not afraid of humanity's violence, not afraid of humanity's unpredictability, but afraid of their potential. The high speaker inhaled slowly, and then, with a hand that trembled ever so slightly, he said, "Load Section 6. The hologram flickered violently, as if reluctant to show what came next. The hologram flickered so violently that several of the Council's technicians stepped back. For the first time since the file began, the system seemed to resist opening the next section. A warning flashed across the air. Access restricted, psychological impact likely proceed? The high speaker swallowed, then nodded. Proceed. The hologram buzzed, glowed white, then finally stabilized, revealing the title of the next chapter. Section 6. The unknown human. Variably deep silence filled the chamber. Nearly every delegate leaned forward without realizing it. What more could possibly be left? The first page, the human QRK. The first line was simple. Humans act against logic. A few delegates frowned. "That's hardly unique," the feathered ambassador muttered. "Many species behave irrationally." But the file responded. Humans act against logic even when death is certain. Images appeared. Soldiers shielding civilians with their own bodies. Firefighters running into collapsing buildings. Strangers diving into wild oceans to save people they never met. Protesters standing against tanks. Parents stepping in front of danger with no hesitation. The crystalline delegate's voice cracked. "This is not irrationality. This is something else." The file continued. Humans sacrifice themselves for ideas, values, and others. A whisper drifted across the chamber. Who sacrifices for strangers? Now the Council understood. Humans didn't fear death in the way most species did, and that alone made them terrifying. The second page. Their most dangerous emotion. Hologram shifted to the next page. Humans form attachments with extreme intensity. Images appeared of friendships, families, team soldiers. Rescuers. The file explained. Attachment increases cooperation, courage, and risk-taking. It creates bonds stronger than fear. The Zaurath general whispered, "Stronger than fear? Impossible." But the hologram disagreed. Humans will fight when afraid. Humans will attack when grieving. Humans will survive because someone needs them. A quiet horror spread across the room. This meant humans had a power the Council did not expect. Motivation, purpose, meaning. Things that could push a person beyond limits. The third page, when humans breakade. Next page opened, but this time the hologram dimmed the lights automatically, as if preparing the room for something heavier. Humans break. They crack under pressure. They shatter emotionally. But they do not stay broken. Images filled the chamber. Veterans waking from nightmares but going back to help others. Survivors crying alone but rebuilding communities. People who lost everything standing again, working again, hoping again. A trembling amphibian delegate whispered, but they should stop. They should quit. The hologram displayed one chilling line. Humans do not quit. The Zaurath general exhaled slowly. That is why they conquered their own world so quickly. The file added, broken humans become more dangerous. Pain becomes fuel. Loss becomes determination. A long, cold silence followed. The fourth page. The variable nitrogen monoxide 1 can be already said. The next page appeared with a digital hiss. Humans seek meaning. The high speaker frowned. What does that mean? The file clarified. Humans search for purpose in everything. In suffering. In victory. In the unknown. A wave of confusion spread through the room. The crystalline diplomat tilted his head. Purpose makes them stronger? The file responded. Purpose creates direction. Direction creates resolve. Resolve creates unstoppable force. The delegates shifted in their seats. Purpose-driven species were rare. But humans? They built entire identities around purpose. The file displayed. Meaning gives humans resilience beyond logic. A pause, and when humans share meaning, they become unstoppable. The Zaurath general's claws tightened. A shared belief can move millions. The delegates looked at one another, suddenly realizing humans did not need orders. Humans followed ideas. Ideas were much, much harder to destroy.